Hey guys, welcome to Collider Movie Talk for movie fans. I'm your host, Ashley Mova, and this is the daily show. We give you all the latest news from the world of movies, plus some insight into what it all means. Leading off the show today is Mark Ellis.
Welcome one and all to the best movie news show in the entire galaxy. My name is Mark, and on today's show, we have Avengers fighting Jedis, banana peel slips a foot, and we learned something from movies because this is an all mailbag edition of Collider Movie Talk. I'm going to give a quick shout out to everybody who came to the La Jolla Comedy Store last night for the 40th anniversary spectacular. And on a more serious note, a shout out to Wiley Henry and all of our fans in Texas right now. Stay brave, stay strong. We are thinking about you guys. Ashley, who's joining me on the panel today?
Also here is Jon Schnepp.
Yeah, back in a normal temperature Los Angeles from Palm Springs, 118 degrees. What the hell is going on in Palm Springs? But it was great to sweat it out with all the fans out there. I had a great time at the Comic-Con that was in Palm Springs.
Also here, Jeremy Jahns.
And thank you for joining us this morning after your Game of Thrones coma. We appreciate it.
Also here, Kristian Harloff.
Hello.
Short but sweet. That's how we like it here. Well, we also want to remind you guys that tomorrow night we have our very special screening of Jurassic Park, the 1993 blockbuster sensation with dinosaurs and Jeff Goldblum in a leather jacket. Dinosaurs. We have all of that and more at the ArcLight in Hollywood. The screening starts at 7:30 p.m. August 29th is the official date. Not only do you get to see Jurassic Park, we also get to have a meet and greet with us Collider folk afterwards, and we'll be doing a Q&A after the flick. And it's sold out, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
It is sold out. The thing, so I didn't know it would sell out this quickly. It is sold out, but don't worry if you didn't get your chance to grab a ticket for ArcLight Hollywood. We will be doing a lot more of these kind of screenings because it's sold out, and we like doing this stuff. We love seeing you guys. Looking forward to all your smiling faces there tomorrow night. Before we kick off our mailbag edition of Movie Talk here today, we do want to mention some sad news this weekend. At the age of 74, director Tobe Hooper passed away in Los Angeles. Tobe Hooper is best known for revolutionizing cinema and the horror genre with the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, and he also did a little movie called Poltergeist in addition to his many credits. Jon Schnepp, what are your thoughts on the passing of Tobe Hooper?
Well, it's sad. I definitely would echo your sentiments. Anyone in the horror community or anybody who just loves great filmmaking would know of Tobe Hooper. And aside from Poltergeist and Texas Chainsaw Massacre 1 and 2, I'd suggest checking out some of his other films like the TV series adaptation of Stephen King's Salem's Lot. I'd check out Life Force, which is a freaky, weird, cool vampire film. And last but not least, see.
Oh, I got one.
Funhouse. There's one that's last but not least.
I was going to say one of the factoids that has just been stuck in my brain since the beginning of time is that Tobe Hooper, the guy who did the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and a bunch of other horror movies, also directed the video for Billy Idol's Dancing with Myself.
Oh, yeah.
Billy Idol's a great star in the video, and it's all thanks to the director, Tobe Hooper.
Yeah.
Thank you for your work, sir. All right, let's kick off this mailbag edition with Ashley Mova reading us a question. These guys are all mailbag questions that you guys have written to us. You can email us anytime, collidervideo@gmail.com. And don't worry, we're going to save some time for your live Twitter questions at the end of this show. So it looks like we're kicking off with an intergalactic battle for the ages.
Hemanth writes, "Hi guys, I am Hemanth from India. Love the work you guys do. After the release of the Infinity War trailer at Comic-Con, the hype surrounding the movies increased, as the movie includes Guardians of the Galaxy, the last Avengers movie, the last movie of RDJ in the MCU, and it also features the biggest foe of Avengers. So do you think that these factors may contribute in Avengers Infinity War breaking Star Wars or Titanic's records? If not, how much do you think will Infinity War make at the box office? Thanks guys for taking my question."
Well, a magic number in my family is $200 million, which I thought Beauty and the Beast was going to get to, and I think Avengers Infinity War will definitely get there. The first Avengers movie got there. It was one of only 3 movies, I think, to do that. I think it's Avengers, the first one, Jurassic World, and then obviously The Force Awakens with the record, and that's domestic opening weekend. And I think that if this is the battle that Avengers are fighting with Star Wars, you're going to come close, but I don't think you're going to pass The Force Awakens. I don't think The Last Jedi is going to pass The Force Awakens for opening weekend, and I don't think it's a product of necessarily when the movie opens, just because it's summertime versus Christmas time. I just think that The Force Awakens was such a special confluence of events that you're never going to see again. Now, it is a good question, though, because Avengers Infinity War, that's also a lot of events coming together. I mean, this is since 2008, Kristian, where we saw Iron Man for the first time on the big screen, and then everything is leading up. Now we do have the presence of a marketable villain like Thanos. Everybody in one movie. You're going to be hearing all these stories about how many actors and actresses were in one scene just duking it out. So do you think that Avengers Infinity War could get to that $250 million opening weekend number?
No, but what I will say is I think that this movie has the potential to be a much better film than The Force Awakens.
What?
I do. I think that everything that I saw in that trailer, I think because of it's almost a conclusion, not really, but kind of, and everything that it is leading up to, and we've always said this is like a television show that you've been invested in the whole way through, starting back from the first Iron Man and going all the way through. So they will have that. They're going to have a very long run time, and Force Awakens had like 2:15 or whatever it was, but it's exactly what you said. The Force Awakens had something that most movies, all movies, don't have, and it's that lead up to basically a lot of fans, a lot of people we know do love the prequels, but there are a lot of people who felt like they didn't have a good Star Wars movie since 1983. And it was the first time that I think that everybody felt like, oh, that's very similar to the look as well those trailers went. Right. And then hitting into the first time you see Han Solo back on screen, potentially Luke on screen, Leia back on screen. That's something that's history in film that just is not going to be replicated anytime soon. So that's not taking anything away from this movie. This movie is going to destroy it, and it's going to definitely do $1 billion at the box office. But I think you're right. I think we're looking at between 2 and 210 opening weekend.
Jon Schnepp, that sort of Force Awakens filth might fly in East Lansing, Michigan, but around here, I take offense to it. I do think Avengers Infinity War, from that trailer, looks like it's going to be something pretty special. Do you think it could be the all-time box office champ?
Well, before I say what I think, I'm going to echo a few things that Kristian said, which I definitely agree. That Chewie, we're home. There's no moment that can echo that with any film. Like, that made everyone tear up. Right. I mean, anybody who ever Star Wars meant to anything
there's
to anybody.
There's photographic evidence of us actually doing that.
There's people freaking out, man, children crying, and for good reason, because it was something all of us always wanted to see that we never thought we'd see, because we were told, oh, it's over after these 6, and then what, a 7th one, and then you see that trailer. Say what you will about the film, that trailer was incredible. It really brought every Star Wars fan together. I mean, I know the film itself is divisive with, people love it, people hate it, this and that. I love it. So I think Infinity War is going to be the biggest box office film of all time. I think it's going to crush Star Wars Force Awakens.
Opening weekend?
Yeah. Wow. And the reason I feel that way is for 2 reasons. Number one, it's an all IMAX. It's shot completely in IMAX. So people are going to go out of their way to see it in IMAX. Force Awakens was not shot completely in IMAX. It was great in IMAX. The sequences that were in IMAX were astonishing. So all I could think of is seeing an entire film shot completely in IMAX by amazing directors with incredible special effects, with 10 years of storytelling culminating. So in a certain sense, it's not Star Wars, but it is this culmination of storylines that we've all seen. I mean, most people have seen Iron Man now. So whether or not you've seen all the other Marvel films, you've seen at least 3 or 4 of them. So it's going to connect the dots with so many different people. Like, oh, this is the big finish to everything. So I feel like it's going to be almost even more than an event film. It's sort of like this cultural attack across the globe. So I see, at least over here in the States, 275.
Right. I mean, just real quick. So I started off by saying that I think that it's probably going to be a better movie than The Force Awakens, right? So dopey comments like,
oh, that's Harloff overpraising The Force Awakens again.
How did I overpraise it, you dope? I just said that the movie itself, the trailer, when you open up, it did certain things. The movie itself, I enjoy it for sure. Overpraising it, look in a dictionary.
Do you think people right now in the comment section are like,
are you reading?
Oh, did you already see one?
It's one person.
Dummy.
It's Monday morning. We don't know if he's had breakfast. You can't start having comments like that.
And I haven't had breakfast, and I'll tell you what.
Oh, God.
You deserve it. Because it's
what
like, watch before you type. It's like, think about it. Think about it. When you're about to write something, go, oh, wait a minute. Did he just say that it actually could be better? Oh, I'll go against that.
You know what's funny?
Dummy.
I can promise you, this dude's with his friend. He was like, "I'm gonna get Kristian Harloff to address my
probably."
Comment.
I just don't care anymore, Jeremy. I'm in that kind of mood. I just don't care.
Are you saying that he's easily triggered?
Today I am. Today, you know what? Today
there's
I am, and I contemplated not saying anything about it.
Yeah.
But I was just like, no. You know what? Go stick
actually-
your head in a toilet bowl.
There's
and
some
flush it
days
87 times.
when he's just made of stone and you can't get into his
Yeah.
psyche. And there's other days
Other-
where it's just somebody stumbled across a certain sequence on a keyboard that just now we have the hunger monster here in full effect. Jeremy, let me ask you this question, but I want to spin it a different way because
Okay.
we're talking about how the hype machine maybe helped out The Force Awakens in the fact
Yes.
that we didn't know that we would ever get that movie.
Yes.
And once it was announced, we got so excited, as opposed to we've always been building up for Infinity War the last 10 years. Do you think that's actually going to help it or hurt it in terms of all-time box office?
I think it's gonna all-time box office. I think it'll help it in the all-time box office. Like if Infinity War came out of nowhere, like if we had a 30-year gap in between, I don't think it would have the. I don't think it would do what Star
It'd
Wars
be like
did.
The Expendables, we just
Right.
everybody in
We're like, well,
grandfather
yeah,
age.
that was nice, but there's something to be said about 30 years of blue balls building up to something.
Yeah.
Whereas with the Marvel movies, we've gotten trickle. We have gotten a movie every year, and this is the culmination of that. And there is something to be said about that. I found the comment interesting because the question, because the question was, is it going to be Titanic? And so I have to think, are they talking all time? Because Titanic's opening weekend wasn't good. It was a slow over time thing. So over time, I think this movie's going to break $1 billion. I have no reason to think it won't break $1 billion for opening weekend. I can see it breaking 200 million, but as opposed to will it beat The Force Awakens? Like as you said, there are 4 movies that have done it. I don't know if The Force Awakens is the biggest one that's ever done it. Do you know the answer to that?
As far as opening weekend, domestically it has.
Yeah.
But as far as
Domestically,
total
yeah.
box office run, I think
these are two different
you still
questions.
have your Avatar and you still have your Titanic.
Right. It's not gonna. It's
bank.
not gonna do Avatar. Avatar did Avatar, and Avatar did Avatar the only way Avatar could ever Avatar. But there are things that come into play in it. 3D comes into play for box office numbers,
Yeah, right.
as does IMAX. So I suppose it's going to be a lot of IMAX numbers.
Yeah.
It's hard to say. Also, Star Wars. If you're not talking Force Awakens, if you're just talking Star Wars, that had like 7 releases between when it came out and the 90s, and even probably in the 2000s that all add to the box office.
Right.
So it's going to be a big movie. The hype's not going to be what it was for The Force Awakens, but I agree with Kristian. It might be a better constructed sum of a whole.
Yeah, there's just that tiny sect of people that I think still see Star Wars as like the event movie that they're going to go see.
Yeah.
And that so many people get excited for Avengers Infinity War, but there's just demographics that it doesn't quite check the amount of boxes that I think Star Wars and nostalgia for Star Wars does. Now, whether that pays off for The Last Jedi as opposed for a new record, that remains to be seen. But maybe the box office record is broken by Gerard Butler's Geostorm, which is hitting theaters in October.
I would love that.
That would be the greatest thing
I'd be
ever.
like, mate, it beats Titanic.
Yeah,
That would be so
the number one movie. Well, I mean, the way
Yeah.
our world is working right now, I could see Geostorm being
You're
the number
changing
one
the
movie.
weather. There's an
Yeah.
assassination plot. It's got everything you want, plus Gerard Butler. And now, if you guys are just joining us, we already have Kristian eating a sandwich and Jeremy has blue balls. So what could the next question hold?
Gosh.
dope.
David Badroff writes, if you haven't seen Room, will this lessen your enjoyment of The Disaster Artist? Do you think this could also hurt the success of the film?
I think it's going to help. It's not
The
Room.
Room.
It's
Room
The
is a
Room.
totally
yeah,
different
Room is
movie.
with Brie Larson. It's a very disturbing film. Room is disturbing for a whole other reason. And if you've never seen Room with Tommy Wiseau, do yourself a favor. And if you're going to see The Disaster Artist, which I cannot wait to see, I'm so glad that they kept that title because I heard they were thinking about changing it, this and that. The Disaster Artist is based on the book. It sounds amazing. I cannot wait to see this film. It's got Franco, it's got all the regulars in there, and they're making fun of a movie that's already just a crash while you're watching it.
Wait, so I thought Room is the one with Brie
Room is the one
Larson.
with
Yes.
Brie Larson.
The
Yeah.
Room.
The Room is the one with
Room.
Tommy. The Room is the one that I have not seen.
Yes,
Yeah.
the room is with
And-
Tommy Wiseau.
I think this question applies to me more than anybody because I haven't seen The Room.
You will love The Room.
But
it's-
so here's my question for you, gentlemen: do I see The Room before, or
Yes.
do I go in differently?
No. You
Because
have to see it
I
before.
love the trailer for Disaster Artist.
Yeah.
I thought was so well done. Rogan had me cracking up.
Yeah.
Franco looked like the guy because I've
Yes.
seen that scene and that's it.
Yeah.
But so I kind kind of want to see the disaster artist first.
No, you got to see because when you see it and then after you know kind of what is coming and how that meant to be,
Right.
I'm telling you because
high mark will mean so
This-
much
it
more
means so
if
much
you see
more.
the room first.
Yeah.
But I can argue the opposite. If you haven't seen the
You ain't
room
gonna see
and
it.
you want to see the disaster artist first and
Yeah.
then see what is it all from, and then you're like, oh my God, it's all real. Like what they're doing, you won't believe.
Right.
When you see the disaster artist, they're like, there's no way that this thing that they're making is real. Then you see the room and you're like, oh my God. They actually made it kind of better is almost what I feel like. It's
Jeremy, like you and I do on Friday nights, let's do some role playing right now. Okay?
Okay.
You put on your lab coat, I'll be your guinea pig. In this experiment, do I need to see the room before disaster artist, or do I wait and see it with a different set of eyes?
In my professional opinion, as Dr. Jahns, who also has not seen The Room.
Oh, really?
really,
I've not seen it. No.
we got to do a watch along.
Yeah.
we got to do a watch along.
This is, I agree. I'm going to see it before the movie comes out because I want that. I want to know the train wreck is coming before the train actually wrecks.
Yeah.
You know, I want to see the rubble and the debris before it actually happens. But I do see that you could do an A plus B or a B plus A kind of thing. I can see a world where you can watch the disaster artist, then watch The Room, and it'll be a different experience for you, and an experience I think less, I don't know, cinephiles and film fans will get to experience rather than watching this Room first and then watching the disaster artist and seeing how it all comes to be. So if you're waiting out, I'm watching The Room, and so if you want to be the one who holds out, I applaud you, Mark Ellis. It'll be a different experience.
I
but-
think that's what Ashley, Wendy, have you guys seen The Room?
We haven't. I haven't.
Oh,
I'm sorry. I
speaking
haven't.
for the haters,
We
Twitter?
have not. When I read the question, I was confused, and I started to type in because I was thinking Room with Brie Larson.
Right.
But then I realized it's a completely different movie, but I haven't seen it.
I have seen The Room, but not in its entirety and not in like where you just kind of see it in chunks. So my husband's like, you got to sit down and watch this movie all the way through with me before we go see the disaster artist because I've
Okay.
seen the very
Brings up a
famous
good
scene
point,
with
though.
the flower shop and all
The
that.
amount of views that thing's going to do again on YouTube and then those other screenings they're going to be able to do. Tommy Wiseau is going to keep making money off
Isn't
this.
it great?
He's
It's
probably the
beautiful.
happiest. I think he's making a cameo in the movie
course he is.
too.
I hope
And
so.
but here's what I'll say, and I've not pitched this to anybody at the Collider or Complex Brass. But what we could do, look, our Jurassic Park screening is sold out already. So
Right,
maybe
that
we have a
idea,
screening
I know
of the
you're
room. We do
going.
a Q&A, and it's the first time that Jeremy and I see the room
Yes!
together.
Fantastic
You guys
idea.
want to see
Yeah.
it right now? That sounds like a
fantastic
$100 ticket ID.
Frosty,
Yes.
you listening?
Frosty, get on that, Frosty.
All right, let's move on to our one news story of the day, which is the weekend box office. The tally is in, and what came out on top, Ashley?
It's Monday, which means it's time for the weekend box office report. The Hitman's Bodyguard took the #1 spot for a second weekend in a row with an estimated $10 million. New Line's Annabelle Creation landed in the #2 spot with an estimated $7.35 million and has now grossed $77.88 million domestically. The Weinstein's Animated Leap took the #3 spot with an estimated $5 million. Wind River expanded in theaters, bringing in an estimated $4.4 million, with its domestic total hitting just shy of $10 million. And Logan Lucky rounds out the top 5 with an estimated $4.4 million after dropping 42.5% in its second weekend of release. The film's domestic total now stands at $15 million after 10 days in release. Christian, thoughts on the weekend box office report?
PU. I mean, this is it's obviously almost September, beginning of September here because this is awful. I mean, this is literally everybody just binge watching all the seasons of Game of Thrones, getting ready for the season finale because Hitman's Bodyguard's #1 with 10 million. I don't think I've seen a #1 since Joe Dirt hit #1 back in the day at like 8 million. That's bad.
Right.
That's real bad. And you know, I am glad to see Wind River in there.
Right.
I mean, granted, it's only 4 million, and probably limited amount of theaters, but it's still at least it gets some kind of display. But
Right.
the fact that the #3 movie, that animated film, opened with $5 million. That is not good.
Wow.
That's
the opening,
That is
yeah.
awful.
Yeah, that and the nut job too. It's
Yeah.
just like maybe you can't just crank out an animated movie with no promotion or a premise that we don't want to see. I mean, Leap actually looked like it might have some interesting stuff in it, but I don't think a lot of people knew it was coming out. You also have a weekend where you had some counter programming, and it was the Mayweather-McGregor fight that a lot of people probably stayed home to. That movie
Paid $100 for it.
That movie came out in theaters too on one of those Fathom event things where you can go to the theater
Right.
to watch the
Right.
fight, and that pulled in $2.5 million. So that was in the top 10 as well.
Well, I also think that what this does open up for, I think that whatever it is projected to do go about another $10-15 million over, because I think what that means is that people have not been going to the movies over the last couple of weeks. They're like, all right, well, what can I see? What's out there? And then the people that want to go and see a movie and do like horror films and good horror films, they're going to see it. I bet you it opens up
massive.
I'm going to say anywhere between 50 and 60 mil.
I think it could top even that.
Yeah.
I mean, I think you could be looking at $85 million for
On a
it,
horror
because
film? Wow.
it's a horror film, but that trailer got everybody excited. Schnepp, as far as this weekend goes, it's pretty much time for more Oscar movies to get here.
Yeah, I feel like, I mean, everybody always jokes about August being like the death month for movies. You're like, just dump it. It used to be January and February. Now it's literally August is like, dump. Even early September, it looks that way. But I'm glad to see, definitely, you mentioned Wind River, Logan Lucky, some of these, independent films, quality films, getting into the top 4, top 5 slots. That's all I can really say. Leap, 5 million. It's incredible.
Jeremy Jahns, did you go to the movie theaters this weekend, and what did you see?
I watched that Bruce Lee movie. Because
how was it?
It was exactly what it made. The biggest review I did was that Death Note movie that was on Netflix.
Right.
It's like it had so many more hits, so many more views than my Bruce Lee movie, which again shows it'll show some studios out there. It's like, oh, you don't have to have a theatrical release in order to get a lot of chatter, get a lot of talk. Again, if you're going to make a movie releasing on the Mayweather fight and the Game of Thrones finale, probably should go another direction. Next weekend, I mean, with it coming out, that's next weekend, right?
It's not this coming weekend. It's the next weekend. Yeah. This
Next
weekend,
weekend,
people have the next, and they're like, hey, meet me next Tuesday, and then they mean this coming Tuesday, and I'm like, that's not what next Tuesday is.
I could see. I see what you're saying. Yeah, soon-ish. When's that? Okay, so Schnepp and I were joking. Well, not joking. We thought it was a joke. We look at this. If you look behind Kristian Harloff's head, there is a 9/11 movie starring Charlie Sheen coming out. It's like
Golden Globe winner, Charlie
Schnepp
Sheen.
and I thought it was a joke. We're like, that can't be
Whoopi
real. But it's a
Goldberg
real
and
movie
Charlie Sheen.
coming out in the beginning of September. So that's going to springboard off of this weekend. That's not going to make.
He was good in serious dramas like Platoon and Men at Work.
Yes, he was, and now he's in a 9/11 movie.
Yeah, and then Home Again, and then It, and I mean,
tried
it
doing
is the
drama
next
again.
one.
Remember when they put him in the Wall Street sequel?
Yeah, but that was just a cameo, though. It was just like a small
that's my
thing. This is a night. It's like they've thrown in the towel to the concept of like, too soon doesn't matter. Let's just make bad. You know what I mean? Like I just saw it. I was
like
just
Gina Gershon.
What's that?
Gina Gershon's always good.
Gina Gershon's in it.
Is she
Whoopi
in it?
Goldberg,
Yeah.
who won an Academy Award. Yeah, I'll give you guys this. If you want a good movie to go see until it comes out, I saw Wind River last week, and it's really, really good. And on Jon Schnepp's recommendation yesterday, I saw Good Time, and that is
Right?
It's a trip, man. I was expecting like, oh, this is gonna be fun. Let's rob some banks, and
No.
boy,
Did you see the trailer?
that is
Yeah.
No, I didn't see the. I
Oh,
did nothing
that's
about
the
it.
best is when you go into a movie, no trailer.
I was
so
shocked,
good.
naked as the day I was
doesn't
born.
say
Yeah.
good time.
Ellis got punched in the nuts and then a right hook.
Yeah, but it's
than
really
happened on
good.
Saturday.
What's it called?
It's called Good Time, and it stars Robert Pattinson. The Safdie brothers did it. They're in the movie as well. And Robert Pattinson, again, like if you saw Twilight, you think one thing about him. If you saw movies like The Rover, you know the guy has some chops, and he really comes to play in this movie. So check out Good Time. Watch the trailer first, and then if you still want to see it, go check out Good Time. It's pretty incredible. All right, let's move on to our next story. We're going back into the mailbag, and we're talking live-action Disney movies.
Yes, sir. Brian Nussbaum, right? Since Disney is making their animated films to live action with Lion King, Little Mermaid, Winnie the Pooh, Aladdin, Mulan, etc., which of their other films deserve a live-action treatment?
What's left?
Oh God, yeah. What is left? That's
I got one for you.
Zootopia.
That's
The
thing about
Black
it.
Cauldron.
Oh, nice. That would
Yes.
be a really good
That
one.
would be
That's
dope.
a good call. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so now that you've taken me down, because it's easy to see the lighthearted family side, but Disney Animation has had some, let's say, gargoyles. I'm going to throw Gargoyles out there. It was never really a movie. It was a show on TV, but it's always deserved a live action adaptation. My official answer for that is Gargoyles. They've already done Little Mermaid, Beauty and the Beast, Aladdin, Lion King. That's my That's my quadfecta right there.
See,
of
I'll
Disney
give you
movies
what
for me.
my business sense is telling me. I think The Princess and the Frog could do really well. I think you get a New Orleans vibe. It's live action. You can CGI the frog. I think that would really crush at the box office. The one that I want to take that the recent returns have not been good on movies like this is The Sword and the Stone. It's one of my all-time favorite Disney movies. The problem with The Sword and the Stone is nothing about the Disney source material. It's that it's about King Arthur pulling a sword from a stone, and they sunk $175 million into that movie with Guy Ritchie, and it didn't make the return. So even the greatness that is the mouse and the power of Disney, I don't think could do a good Sword in the Stone right now anyway.
No, but talking animals are doing really well right now for live action, as we see what Lion King's about to do, and we see obviously what Jungle Book did. So don't be surprised if you see Bambi, and don't be surprised if you see Fox and the Hound.
Lady and the Tramp. I want to
Lady
see
and
those
the
little
Tramp.
dogs
Lady and the
talking.
Tramp.
That would be so cute.
Those are 101 Dalmatians they've done before.
Yeah.
They're like
that's the
having
thing.
that spaghetti.
Yeah. They've done,
Do not do Fox and the Hound unless you change the ending.
What's wrong
Don't
with the
do
ending?
Fox and the Hound.
No, you need that ending.
What's
You
wrong
need the
with
gut punch,
ending's
dude.
What,
Doesn't-
what do you think happens at the
Spoil-
ending?
Spoiler alert.
What do you think happens at the end?
Doesn't one of them?
Hey.
Did you guys hit the mailbag button for spoiler alert? Doesn't one of them eat it?
No.
Oh, I thought one of them
No.
got capped.
No, don't
Oh,
they
okay.
like part ways?
They're friends.
They part
They're
ways.
friends when they're younger, and then they get older, and one realizes, "Hey, I'm a fox. Hey, I'm a hound. Hey, I'm going to eat your face." And then they have like, then there's like a thing that brings them back
And then
together.
they have the steak knife and they get chopped up, right?
Yeah,
That's-
and then
He's
Tweedledee
joking,
and Tweedledum
Mark.
come in.
He's
and eat 'em
joking,
up.
Mark. He's joking.
I don't know what to.
Yeah, your reality just took a
Tear me
big
apart.
Lisa.
bringing it nice. Bringing it back on course. One
I
that
like what you did there on course.
I just said on course. I don't know what he heard.
Oh, I'm sorry.
But
He's very hungry.
Robin Hood.
Oh yeah, but the fox.
Yeah, like
not
I
bad.
think that would be a good take on it since
Yep.
we've had a few Robin Hoods, and it's
Right.
the only different direction for live action you can do is make them the animals.
And
love
people
that.
and a lot of people argue that that's one of the best Robin Hood
Yeah,
movies
right,
of all
right,
time. I'm not
exactly.
even kidding. I love that movie.
Some of our Disney experts, though, are over on the news desk right now. So, Ashley, Wendy, what do you guys think would be the best live-action Disney movie that is not currently announced?
No, Schnepp took mine. I was thinking
Oh.
Lady and the Tramp because I would love to see the two doggies and they eat the spaghetti and then they like live together happily ever
voice.
after.
How cute. I would love to see Hunchback of Notre Dame.
Yes.
Love to see that.
Yes.
I think
Yeah.
That's
and I
a
second
fucked up
Jeremy's.
movie.
What? Well, I mean, I guess it could be a little bit more like grown-up, Disney for grown-ups.
I like it. The
But
problem-
I like it. And I second Jeremy's gargoyle idea. I had such a crush on Goliath.
See the problem with like Gargoyles and Hunchback of Notre Dame, those movies too. It's like you look at the other movies that Disney has done that there's like brand Disney feel to them. Like Hunchback of Notre Dame is obviously something, but was made famous before Disney, and it's not, you don't really associate that with Disney. The same thing with like Gargoyles themselves. They're trying to take like their property like Cinderella and well, it's not Snow White, but you know what I mean, like those ones that did so well and animated, and they're starting to run out of them. So it's like I think eventually down the line, what you will see, I said in the beginning, in like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, Zootopia. These other movies, the new animations. that they
Remember
do.
the classic.
Yep, you know what I
You
mean?
know?
Like,
Yeah,
and that's what
yeah.
they would do. They would start to say, I mean, maybe like a Herman's Head, Inside Out.
Christian.
Yeah.
Kids got to grow up sometime, man. Give them the darkness.
I know, right? It's not a matter of the darkness, because I think Black Cauldron's another one that I would love to see, but it's not like that known property. You and I know it pretty
Right.
well, but it's not like a known.
No, it was a Disney failure. It was one of those.
It
like,
was.
yeah,
It
you
was.
know.
So like a lot of those movies. Well, the other one they didn't do, and the easiest one that we just forgot about, Sleeping Beauty.
Oh wow.
They haven't
Right.
done
Well,
Sleeping
they
Beauty.
kind of did
Sleeping
Maleficent with, the
yeah,
Sleeping
that's
Beauty.
right.
Yeah, but let's do a
kinda
real
angle.
one.
Right.
I don't want to go back to that other. They literally turned your monitor off because they heard Sleeping Beauty and they're like, nah, we gotta
Yeah.
cut this guy off.
Go to
They were
sleep.
like,
Yeah,
you know what?
is
That
Maleficent-
9/11 movie is stupid.
Yeah.
We're gonna go ahead and just take
All I
the
know is
picture
that
off.
Jeremy Jahns literally said, bring on the darkness, and then the monitors
Yeah.
went blank. So we
Yeah.
will move on to our next topic, which hopefully has some yucks in it.
Thomas writes, hello, fellow movie fanatics. I watched The Naked Gun yesterday and noticed both the obvious in-your-face comedy moments like the oh, nice beaver
I just had it
moment
stuffed.
and other moments like the old piece of cheese that slowly moves to the left. Most people don't pick up on that, but for those who do, it just makes it that much more fun because of the subtlety. Do you think we'll see a return of the combination of subtle and obvious humor in movies with good slapstick as well? What are some of your favorite moments of subtle humor in film?
Oh my God, I really thought I was the only person that knew about the cheese and Naked Gun. Somebody else out there recognizes the greatness, the subtlety of sliding cheese. I'm glad that you're revisiting spoof movies, and for all of our younger viewers, I really recommend check those out, like the Naked Guns, the Airplanes, the Top Secrets, the Hot Shots of the world. See what you think. See if it still holds up, because I saw those movies at a much younger age, and they affected me, and I still think they are some of the funniest movies ever put to film. But there is some good subtlety in there. It's not always just slipping on banana peels and dropping bombs on Saddam Hussein. I think that Lloyd Bridges' performance in Hot Shots, while it is very, I mean, it's very overtly being comedic, there's little things that he says in there, there's little ticks that he does that are just so note perfect. I honestly think it should have been nominated for Best Supporting Actor at the Academy Awards. I know you agree with me on that one. Another one that I think is an all-time great is Top Secret. And yes, there's a lot of overt moments. I know a little German. He's sitting over there. There's also just this great little gag that they do that you would blink and miss it, but they're trying to run away from some evil Nazis. They're in some big building. He opens the door marked janitor. He opens the door and there's a janitor in there with a mop just leering, and then he closes it, then they move on to the next scene. If you blink and you miss it, there's a lot of things in these movies that have such a good replay value that you didn't see the first 10 times you saw it. So I highly recommend checking out spoof comedies. Kristian, I know you agree with me.
I absolutely agree with you. The Lloyd Bridges is the most underrated comedic performance ever. It's just like what I wouldn't give to be 20 years younger. And a woman. It's like there's so many great lines throughout it. And just the way he throws things out. He's like, hey, you hear this guy there? Jim. Like, there's so many moments in that movie, and him, honestly. But Airplane's another one. Yeah. There are so many just particular little things that are said that you got to pay attention to, listen to, go back. You know, silly things. Jim never had 2 cups of coffee at home. Like, this certain little thing. I know, right? Airplane is, you know, what's the other one? In Airplane, it's like,
there's too many. What they Shit's going to hit the fan.
Yeah, but the one thing that he goes, something's happening, and Leon's getting larger. There's just so many silly moments, but also you don't expect them to come, and they hit you, and it's just, I love those movies. But as far as will they make a return, you can't say yes or no, and I won't agree with people who say, well, that's the way the time was back then. It's not true. If there are certain types of comedians and filmmakers and writers that can make it happen, we don't have those types working right now. We don't have, well, I shouldn't say that. We don't have those people who are focused on that right now, because whether or not they think there's no time for it, they haven't taken a shot at it. I think we are due for another one. We need another Top Secret or a Hot Shots one or a Naked Gun. It's just the problem is when they do them now, it's like they're cliched moments.
It's very pop culture infused, which I think really harms the movie after its first week of release. It's like, let's make fun of 50 Shades Darker, but now that's all of a sudden not really a usable reference.
All these movies are. Even Airplane is off of Airport, and it's a shot-by-shot remake of something that came out in the 50s or 60s. I can't remember what it was. But
Tora.
Yeah, but even Naked Gun, all these movies are spoofs of it. But the difference was that they had what makes them really good is when they have their own real stories inside of the spoof. A lot of the times that these spoof movies are just spoof scene, joke. That's what gets tired. It's when Frank Drebin is a character inside of this spoof format. That's what they need to do, and they got away from doing the scary movies 1, 2, 3, and 4. It just became bits.
In Hot Shots, we were actually concerned with Operation Sleepy Weasel.
Yeah, all of these, like, whatever happened to the, we combined 300 with this, with that, all these, like, latest, like, spoof movies that have sucked and bombed out at the box office is because all they are is a reference to a reference to a reference piled on references. All the movies we're talking about are simply funny jokes in a movie, and there's joke after joke after joke. Airplane was like, you didn't laugh at this one? What about this one? What about this one?
But there was still story going on inside of it with
my favorite one is like, there, I've touched it. You've barely touched your food. Or like, put the candle back. It's like Young Frankenstein is my all-time favorite spoof movie, and it's awful Frankenstein, and it makes it incredibly funny. That has all the jokes almost have nothing to do with Mary Shelley or Frankenstein, but they also put, really well written, sew those in as well. So I think it's high time. It's like throwing the gauntlet down, like, to comedian writers out there. It's like, can you write a great spoof movie without referencing other comedies?
Well, you do wonder if history is a little circular here, if it gets to go around like this as opposed to just being a straight line. Jeremy Jahns, you like gladiator movies?
I love gladiator movies. I thought Russell Crowe was great. I thought, it was the fact that they marketed it with a Kid Rock song. I thought that was really strange. But in the end, you walk out of the movie going, this is a great contender for Best Picture.
Did they market Kid Rock?
Yeah. The Bob with the Bob, that was in there.
Oh, my God.
Jeremy, have you ever been in a Turkish prison?
I've never been in a Turkish prison. But all right, so Kristian has me thinking, though, because I was actually, during all of this monologue or dialogue among you guys, I was thinking it's Probably because young people and the comedy that they resonate or that they respond to isn't conducive to that kind of spoof movie. And then you hypothesize that, well, that's probably not it. It just hasn't been done well. So I want to see that. I want to see if we see a throwback, it will be an obvious throwback, like Black Dynamite was specifically riffing on something, right? So if we see it again, it will be a movie that's made to emulate that old school spoof
There's some
feel.
stuff like on Adult Swim that you'll catch.
There is some stuff. There's
if
some
it's
stuff.
like Children's Hospital, stuff like that has notes of it. You know, even like the Wet Hot American Summers have spoof elements. 21 and 22 Jump Street have spoof elements, but it's just something missing. And I think, like Kristian said, that you actually need some sort of through line to carry all of the jokes.
But I also think that there are some jokes in Airplane that you couldn't do now.
Right.
Like you just really couldn't do now. And that's the problem. That is a bummer with the world we live in. A lot of things are very politically correct. And it's, I think, hamstrung comedy. And you just can't go there now. So that is going to be it's like a time capsule.
You should be allowed to go there. Comedy should not be hamstrung by
agree.
PC. Anybody who doesn't understand comedy is like that. Those are the people I can't stand. With like, you cannot be PC with comedy.
Yeah, but it goes back.
Comedy's supposed to break the rules. Comedy's supposed to make you feel uncomfortable.
It goes back to the initial argument, though, Jeremy. It's the fact that there's got to be certain filmmakers, writers that maybe take the shot.
I hope so.
And maybe go for certain things and go for certain jokes that they say, well, I don't know if we should try to do that. Let's try to do it, see what we can get away with. But George Carlin always said it. George Carlin was the one who always said, anything can be funny. It's a matter of how you do it. Like, not everyone can do it, but anything can be funny depending on how it's crafted. Like, there are things that you have seen before that you're watching, you're going, I shouldn't be laughing at this, but because of the way that A, someone said it, or B, the way that it was put on screen, you're like, that's funny. I didn't want to be laughing at that, but that's funny. That can happen. It's just, again, we need the writers, we need the directors, and we need the right actors to be able to pull it off.
I love that Carlin opened one of his specials with the line that I'm a professional comedian, unlike the people who you work with in your offices day in and day out. All right, we got one more mailbag question. We're going to move on to live Twitter. So what's closing us out?
Drew Baker writes, Dear Collider crew, first I have to say, love all the content you're putting out. So my question is, after reading the story about the kid who saved his baby brother from drowning with what he learned after seeing San Andreas, I was wondering, is there any skills you picked up from watching a movie or studied further because of a movie? Thanks for taking my question.
Did you read that last part of it?
Also, Josh, you stay strong, my friend, and don't let Kristian bully you.
That is a reference to Josh McCouga doing the VR and me. I am helping him through his fears.
It's true. He's helping the man through Christ.
I am making sure that this individual does not scream as if he remember those old cartoons when the big lion would see a mouse and then start screaming?
Yes.
That's McCouga in every single thing that he has. He needs to stop this. As his friend, I am helping him. So, sir, you watch that bullying stuff. Don't be a dope. No, but as far, what the hell was the question?
Oh, good. Thanks. Great. Have you ever learned anything from a movie, like an actual skill that you've incorporated in your everyday life?
I'm sure I learned this from a movie. That's all I got.
Oh God! Well, whatever movie that is, I hope it burns in hell for all time. I think that there's more things in movies that you see and you should never attempt at home. I was a huge Back to the Future fan, and yes, I attempted not time traveling, but I attempted traveling on a skateboard, holding on to the back of a car, and it really doesn't work well if you're going downhill. Really not the right play to make if you're going down. We lived at the end of a cul-de-sac, and I was like, this seems like a good idea. And once I got to the bottom of the ravine, I had a different notion entirely.
You said that. It was funny. You made me, actually, I did do something when I was a kid from a movie, and it did work. In Queens, you can do this, but not anywhere else. In Stand By Me, remember when they go into the back of the bus, and they hold in the bus and then run off? I did that for a while. Almost fell off into the highway, and that was probably the end of it. But I was able to hold on to the bus, and that's how we would not pay bus fares. We would jump on the back of the bus.
I learned what not to do in A Christmas Story. Don't stick your tongue on a metal pole. I never did it after seeing
Or
that,
Dumb and Dumber for another generation of viewers. Same exact thing. How about you, Jeremy?
Yeah, well, I mean, I actually, movies have been a big part of me learning things. Like, example, Interstellar got me really into theoretical physics. You know, in my spoiler video, I had some gripes with Interstellar, and people in the comment section were like, "It's because you don't know what the fuck you're talking about." And I was like, maybe I don't. Maybe I should learn that. And so I really delved deep into it. And I mean, though my gripes with the last act of Interstellar have nothing to do with the science, just conceptually, but I mean, it made me appreciate it a lot more. Also, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was one where, I mean, it really is a lesson. A lot of John Hughes movies are the lessons to learn in life. But Planes, Trains, and Automobiles was the one that if you have people coming from 2 different walks of life, even the annoying guy you know and you want to just bite his head off, probably has a crushing, heartbreaking story behind him. You should probably just empathize a little bit more. These are the things I learned from him.
I learned a lot from sports movies as a kid. I love watching sports. I love playing sports. I learned a lot from both Prefontaine movies. It actually helped my running style when I was running cross country. And Rudy. I mean, what lessons can't you learn from Rudy? Is that if you try hard enough out there, kids, one day you can be a 50-year-old man who gets drunk at Notre Dame frat parties and tells lies about how good he was at football. All right, let's move on to live Twitter questions. This is the part of the show you guys can tweet us anytime at Collider Video. Ashley Mova is next to Wendy Lee, and she will be proctoring our live Twitter sect here today. What do we got, Wendy?
Let's go save Mark. All right, this one comes from Chris, who writes, why is it that movies have dumpster months, but other entertainments like TV shows, video games, and music do not?
This has been explained to me by many people smarter than me, is that movie studios have certain budgets that they have for the year, for advertising, for things like that, and so if you spend your money on your tentpole movies, you don't necessarily have enough to go around, so you have to make some tough, judicious decisions and say, well, we think this movie has legs. We think this movie is going to be successful in this market or this market, domestically, overseas. Then you have other movies that come out. Maybe it's a Charlie Sheen 9/11 movie. Maybe it's Leap, where you're like, we just don't have the money to put into this. We don't think that even if we spend X amount of dollars, it's going to have a return of Y amount of dollars. So we need to kind of jettison some of this stuff. It's like emptying the garbage in The Empire Strikes Back. So I think the end of the summer, where studios spend a lot of their blockbuster dollars, and then the end of the year, where they spend a lot of Oscar campaigning money, as well as blockbusters around Christmas, are the reason why you see end of August and January spilling into February movies not do as well. But Kristian, as we've seen recently with studios, they're actually taking advantage of the fact that these movie months are not known for having great cinema, and sometimes more underdogs can sneak through.
Sometimes. I mean, you get lucky. You get something like The Gray, or things kind of pop in there in January and September. But a lot of times, like you just said, it's the marketing stuff. And as far as TV and music, it's different seasons. Summer for television has their own season. There's marketing for their summer season, their fall season. You know, so there's always these different seasons for television. Music is kind of the same thing as far as when they're marketing it. And the other thing that January hits, you got to remember, is that in December, when the limited releases in like New York and Los Angeles, when we get the Oscar-nominated films, the majority of the audience, they get the movies like The Revenant and the movies that they hit in January. So that added money then will push these movies that just either they want to get for the Oscar nomination and all that stuff. So that's usually when those movies come out. At the beginning of January, you're going to get either the garbage or smaller marketed movies that they don't have to put that much money. That's why you get a lot of horror movies, because they don't cost that much to make. Certain horror movies that don't cost a lot to make, they can market it for whatever they have. And September's kind of the same thing, because now they know the majority of money that they're going to use for the remainder of the year is to push those movies that they want to get into the Oscar nomination. You'll see the in consideration for. Like, you're not going to see these movies from like the end of August, and no one's going to be pushing The Hitman's Bodyguard for Oscars. Right. So they pushed it at the end of August, and that's it.
That's right, because they're going to be pushing Geostorm. Jeremy Jahns, enlighten us with your movie industry knowledge.
You know, well, as a projectionist, there was one. It was really a story I got when I worked at a movie theater. The booker was telling me about, because any movie that a movie theater takes in, one has to leave. You know, it's like, right, in order to take on a movie going to be shown on the screen, whatever's showing on that screen currently has to go somewhere else.
That's sound logic.
Yeah. You can't two things can't occupy the same space at the same time.
Time cop.
Science. And so the booker was telling me that, you know, sometimes you see this crappy movie, you're like, how on earth did that happen? And a studio will be like, well, if you want the big movie coming out later, you have to take the crappy movie now. Ooh. And that's how these things get into movie theaters. They ultimately hold them hostage. I thought that was a neat little behind the scenes
I love that you brought that up also, because that's what happened with Star Wars. In 1977, I can't remember the name of the movie, but the deal that Fox made was, in order to have whatever the movie was, you have to take Star Wars.
Right, that was the little movie.
That was the little movie, and they're like, what is Star Wars? And they're like, well, fine. It was exactly that deal, and I can't remember. It's in Chris Taylor's book of How Star Wars Conquered the Universe. They had this whole thing. Then it flipped on its head and started to be, you can have Star Wars if you take that movie.
Nice.
So that's exactly right. They do that all the time, still to this day.
Yeah.
Yeah, the only thing I could add to this conversation is I know a lot of studios have guaranteed releases. So you might question, like, why are these three weird movies being released or pushed out in August when these other movies that might be bigger action films are going straight to Netflix or straight to Hulu or straight to, you know, video on demand, is because the contracts had a guaranteed release.
Yeah, so you can check out movies anytime in theaters, and sometimes you actually get lucky if you're living in a place that is not New York or Los Angeles, and January comes around, and then those small Oscar movies suddenly get a wide release and have a lot of legs. So there's just not a lot of competition. So keep your eyes peeled, and don't worry, it comes out in a few weeks. All right, let's do one more Twitter question and call it a day.
Okay, this one comes from Nash, who writes, do you guys think American Made has Oscar potential?
I think American Made definitely has Oscar potential. I mean, you have the Tom Cruise pedigree, but also based on a true story helps it. I saw the trailer for it, and it looks like it's fun, fast-paced, a lot of action, a lot of intriguing story, and there's just something about drugs right now and the drug trade in the 80s that people are interested about. You look back with rose-tinted glasses about that time, but also the seedy underbelly of all these drugs coming into America, largely because of this one guy.
No, I don't. I think because of exactly what we were just talking about, the date. I think that if it was an Oscar, if it had Oscar potential, they wouldn't be putting it out in September, the end of September. Still, I think that with a Tom Cruise, if it was Oscar potential, you'd be seeing it in October or November even. But I think it has potential to be very fun. I think it could be a different type of movie and a different role for him. I think it's kind of his version of Blow.
Right.
So but I don't think it will be nominated, but I hope I'm wrong because Tom Cruise, I'm a big fan of him.
Blow also very good, not nominated for Oscars, I don't believe. Jeremy Jahns, American Made, does it have a shot?
Yeah, it was Blow is exactly what I thought of, where it's like that could have been an Oscar contender, but was. I think Charlie Wilson's War was another one that you heard a lot
Underrated.
about. Yeah, and it was like, ooh, this is the Oscar push. Nope. So every year or two, I always see this happen where this movie comes out that has everything lined up for it, but it doesn't quite get there. I can see it being that if the movie's good, I hope it does get some Oscar buzz, but all I want is a good movie.
The final word goes to Jon Schnepp.
Tom Cruise covered in cocaine. Can't wait to see it.
That was the original working title.
That's actually how you pitched that in a room. Now, if this was a movie that was pitched in the 1980s, there would have been actual cocaine there. Sadly, nobody has that
Tom
much
Cruise
fun
like a wet donut. You
these
just
days.
book in cocaine covered.
Read the stories about how they pitched Caddyshack to certain members of the cast. It's a fun time. All right, thank you guys so much for joining us here on a mailbag edition of Collider Movie Talk. I want to thank all the guys behind the scenes, especially Mark Riley, who writes these show notes and found all these glorious questions from you guys. Hats off, good sir. And the panel up here with me, Mr. Jon Schnepp. Where can the kids find you?
You find me yawning and stretching as I'm preparing to do Heroes later today, and also you'll find me watching Jurassic Park and like seeing the Tyrannosaurus Emperor tomorrow.
The Tyrannosaurus Emperor?
Yeah. Yes, my powers are. Yeah. Eating Perry Nemiroff.
If you attempt to eat Perry Nemiroff live on stage, that's going to be something that's worth the money. Jeremy Jahns.
The context to that is we were talking about how the Emperor is always like this, and he was
Yeah.
like, has anyone drawn a T-Rex with the Emperor robe?
Yeah.
There's your context to what he was just
We
talking
want
about.
to see that, like the Emperor as a Tyrannosaurus Rex. I'm thirsty.
Sometimes you had to be there for the setup. You could find me at Jeremy Jahns on YouTube, Twitter, rest of the internet, my show, Awesome-tacular, on Go90, where Ellis and I throw pies in each other's faces, Schnepp and I shop comic books, and Kristian Harloff and I talk Star Wars theory.
Good. Harloff.
How are you? I am also going to be at the Jurassic Park thing. Make sure you guys come out and check it out. It's going to be a lot of fun. For the meet and greet, if you didn't get a ticket, come by afterwards. We could come to the bar. What'd I say? Who cares? Come by, come check it out. It'll be a lot of fun. Check out also the Schmodown, Ultimate Schmodown, week number 2. Had some big matches last week. Thank you to everybody who checked it out. We got 4 more this week starting tomorrow. Jon Schnepp and Hector Navarro go up against Burnett, Ann, and Draco. Blofeld's Cat. Going to be a lot of fun. Check it out.
Over on the news desk, Ashley Mova.
You guys can find me on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Ashley Mova. Happy Monday, guys.
And sitting next to Ashley Mova is the one, the only, Wendy Lee Zaney.
That's right. You can find me on YouTube at the Movie Couple channel, at Wendy Lee Zaney on Twitter, Instagram, and Snapchat, and I will also be at the Jurassic screening tomorrow night.
Rock on. I am merely Mark Ellis. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure you subscribe right here to Collider Video's YouTube channel for all the greatness that you will see day in, day out around these parts. I'll be doing some stand-up in Vegas this weekend. For tickets, get markellislive.com is the name of my website, and I will see everybody at the Jurassic Park screening tomorrow and right here for a new episode of Collider Movie Talk.
Hey guys, if you like this video, click the thumbs up button. Also, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel. It'll help you stay up to date with everything we've got going on here at Collider.